Okay, guys, welcome to another Pride and Grit Spouse Spotlight. I am super excited now that it is almost April, and so some of us are starting to cross our fingers about our PCS season. I'm super excited to bring in CC Gallagher to talk a little bit about what she's been up to and see if that isn't something that might help get you through the next season of this military life. So, welcome, CC, to Pride and Grit and to our
Oh.
spotlight.
Hey there, Jen. Are you there?
There you are.
Yeah, it for a second. No
I
worries.
know. It's yes. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, and we'll talk a little bit about what you're up to. But give us a little highlight reel on CC.
I would love to. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here and talking with you. So, my name is Christine Gallagher, but I go by Cece, and I am the president of Military Quality of Life Consulting and the newly launched product called the Stressless PCS Kit. So, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an Army spouse, I'm a mom of two highly mobile military kids. And for us, through 6 years of marriage, I've had the opportunity to work across multiple industries, and that includes teaching in higher education, running national nonprofit programs and government relations efforts for two of the nation's leading military service organizations. I've served as an IT project manager, running the Military Spouse Employment Partnership Partner Portal as a defense contractor and the Military Spouse Transition Program. Gosh, I've had a lot of
You
a
do.
variety of
You've been all
different
over the place.
yeah, and as a spouse and having moved so much, it's been extremely difficult to maintain employment through our PCS move. So I added entrepreneur to my resume several years ago, and the concept of military quality of life consulting came out of a really challenging PCS in a position that I wasn't really ready to leave yet.
Mm.
And so I launched it in 2015, in October of 2015. And since then, over the past couple years, I've worked with 12 different clients. And those include federal government organizations, national nonprofit organizations, national brands, and foundations. But really, the goal behind that business is to help them greater fulfill their mission of serving our military community. And I do that with social impact or community engagement, operations support, as well as strategic communication. And the last endeavor that I recently got into was launching a product in January of 2020 called the Stressless PCS Kit. And that was born out of just the numerous moves that we've had and frustration of trying to organize the sea of brown boxes that goes into a truck or into a crate and out the other side. And so the Stressless PCS Kit was born prior to our PCS here to Fort Bliss, Texas. And it's an all-in-one labeling system to help a military family move through that move and that process. So thank you again for having me, and I really appreciate talking with you.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit, because I mean, that's as I listen to what you've been involved in, it's kind of fascinating to see where you've had your hands in a lot of
Oh
different
my gosh,
places.
yeah.
But how, like, were you in any of those capacities or in a similar connected capacity prior to your military life, or are those all things you kind of took on as a necessity out of the mobility of military life?
That's a great question. No, I was in school prior to my military to our military marriage. I have an undergrad master's degree in advertising and communications, and
Okay.
I married my husband right out of grad school. And for me at the time, I was looking for corporate America. And we moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is farm fields, unless you're traveling up to Nashville,
Right.
Tennessee. So I moved there looking for corporate America. I ran into not that. And that's when I
Right.
started teaching in higher education. I was like, all right, I got to pivot. I was a teaching assistant in grad school. I know how to do this. And one of the local universities picked me up as an adjunct. And then I made my
Mm.
way into being a full time instructor there. So, no, every position that I've had, I feel as if, I really fought to stay in the workforce through our military career, but no, we don't come from military families. And so it's been an interesting ride so far.
Yeah, no. And so have most of those positions that you mentioned, so you had the
Yeah.
higher education and then some of the other work you've done, has that been more DC centered? It just
Yes.
sounds DC-esque.
It is. Some of them are very DCS. That's a very good point. So we got married Fort Campbell, Kentucky, taught at a university there. We PCS to Fort Rucker, Alabama. My husband's in aviation for the Army and taught at Troy University there. And when we pivoted to the Washington, D.C. area, that was our third duty station, married. I said, okay, I've worked in higher education. I've been a student in higher education for many years. Let me try to pivot outside of that. And so when we got to DC, it was actually very overwhelming to move to such a massive city, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for positions in every industry, and was ended up being hired by the National Military Family Association on their government relations staff. And that position really pushed the trajectory for me to stay within the military community and veteran and support space. But not only that, launch a business to continue that work over the years. So I was very grateful for that opportunity. And NMFA is just an incredible organization. They do a lot of great work for our military families.
So was the kind of what created the need for or the desire for you to build your own company and start to do your own consulting work? Was that at the next pivot? Where did that come in?
So I was with NMFA for a little over a year. Again, working government relations staff, lifting military families' voices up to Capitol Hill. And my portfolio there was focused on spouse employment education initiatives. And I was approached by another nonprofit called the Military Officers Association of America. And they had an open position overseeing their spouse and family and currently serving portfolio. So we were still in DC, and that was probably the longest duty station we had at three years. It was probably, longest time.
Oh yeah.
So
it's forever.
Yeah, it's forever. It's a lifetime. And so I was hired by them, and for MOA, I led that portfolio, spouse, family, and currently serving. And for them, we were hosting career across the country and really connecting spouses with community installation, state and federal level resources. And I was also running their communications efforts, focusing on digital, print, virtual communications to spouses and family on behalf of their membership. And when we got orders to Fort Carson, Colorado, so I was with MOA for about 2 years, a little over that. I wasn't able to maintain that position in a remote capacity. So I was having a really hard time with this job out of grad school. This is our and had the meltdown with my husband. Like, what am I going to do next? Your job is moving us everywhere. He's like, just launch a consulting, launch a business. He's like, let's go on legal Zoom and GoDaddy and let's just buy a business and let's just do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought entrepreneurship would ever be part of my story. And so as I'm having this meltdown on the kitchen floor, and we have a 1.5-year-old at the time, what I realized is that just because we were moving doesn't mean that my education or experience goes out the window. And a lot of people who I had worked with professionally asked, how do we stay tied to you? How do we continue to leverage you and use you as you move?
Right.
So that's where that business was born out of. And at the time, I didn't know what it would be or, what it would grow into or what that looked like starting it. But I launched it, and simultaneously at that time, my resume was getting pushed out by my professional network. And so I was hired at the same time as an IT project manager for a defense contractor who allowed remote work. And so at the same time, I've had this full-time position running spouse employment and transition as a government contractor for DoD. But then I also had these passion projects that I would work on to help organizations grow what they wanted to. And so, and I did that for about 4 years, and then my business just off. And so when we PCSed to Fort Bliss here in the fall, we came in 2019 in August. I was getting burned out because I was working full time doing these passion projects, and I was just like, I got to change something. We're moving, and this fall, which was really exciting.
Oh, you cut out for just a second, but oh, you still there? Oh, there you are.
There you are. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's one of those nights with internet. But so what you know what I so one of the things I hear as you talk about this is I think for military spouses, I think there's so often I hear people talk about their kind of identity and how do they maintain their identity and how do they sort of create a path, if you will, that allows that to move with them. And what I hear and what you're saying is that often the opportunities that come, you don't know what they're connected to, right? So you've had these opportunities and they ended up connected to something else, which ended up connected to something else. And it may be like 3 duty stations, but or more, right? It's just interesting to kind of visualize the web of sorts, because I don't know that it's maybe not super common, but I suspect there's other people out there, right, that took a job and did amazing work, and either their employer was able to keep them and they were able to transition that job, and they maybe didn't know that that's what would happen. So sometimes it's like taking this leap of faith that I don't know how this is going to play out, and I don't know that I can take it to the next duty station, but I'm just going to jump in and I'm just going to sort of see where it leads. And then sometimes it really ends up leading to something cool that you couldn't have even predicted. If you had tried to map out your life, right? This is not how it would have mapped out. So I find that just listening to you, I find that super interesting.
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, you never know what opportunities are going to lie ahead of you. And for me, it has always been about making those strong connections in the community, right? So strong friendships, strong partnerships, professional relationships. And the other thing is asking people for help. When you're in a situation, right, people want to help and they want to make sure that your family is taken care of and that you are. And I truly believe people will help where they can. And so even when I started crossing those barriers of, okay, I can't keep this position, or I'm launching a business, I have no idea what the first thing is about launching a business or how to grow it, I would just ask people for their best tips and advice. And I also reached out to different organizations. So one of the best resources that I've used, and this is more, well, several of them, but Military One Source, and I'm sure you're familiar with them, but they have a center called Spouse Education and Career Opportunities, and they have free career coaches who are there, who all have master's degrees, and it's free for us to call and talk to them about what we're doing. And so I've worked with an entrepreneurship coach for probably a little over well over a year now, and she kind of helped facilitate launching the kit, the Stressless PCS Kit, because I would bounce ideas. Product, going from service-based to launching this product. But she's been a great resource. And they also have these health and wellness coaches. I don't know if you knew that, but that was an incredible resource too. And I would call the same person. I've probably worked with her 4 separate times, whether it was through a PCS move or adding a new baby to our family or re-entering the workforce after maternity leave or whatever that change looked like for us. And that was amazing because she was trying to help me build in healthy habits of, like working out or eating well or taking care, like self-care, taking care of yourself. So that's what Military One Source is a great resource. And I always recommend to spouses, but also leaning on your network and asking for help and looking for those opportunities. They're all around you. People want to lend a helping hand.
Well, and I think it's a really good point because I think we do emphasize to some extent, leaning on others as it relates to maybe your emotional health or just adjusting or all of those pieces. But I think it's also that reaching back and leaning on, on others and asking for help if you're looking for a position or if you're looking to just get into an industry or, there's a company you're interested in and figuring out who do you know in that company that you can talk to. So it's also, to your point, asking for help professionally is maybe
Yeah.
like, I don't know that I'm as good about that. But
Well, yeah,
that's
it's not
interesting.
yeah, it's not easy, but I would say even if you wanted a friend or professional contact to look over your resume or application, or I
Right.
mean, any of those pieces, do a mock interview or even an informational interview. I've done a lot of those with different folks in different industries, but just to pick their brain about best practices and what is your recommendation on how I enter this industry, as you said, it's
Mm-hmm.
again, people are willing to help and yeah, leverage those connections, network and do it virtually because that's really where we thrive,
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Facebook. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah. No, very true. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, so you've got the consulting business and you're doing
Yeah.
that, and then I didn't realize the kit was as new as it was. I guess in my head
Oh,
I feel like I've heard about it forever, so I felt like it'd been
thank
around
you.
longer than that. So
Oh,
how did that whole product come about? Kind of walk us through that journey and tell us
so
about it.
yeah, no, I definitely will tell you about it. But it came just out of the frustration of moving so many times so rapidly. And what I realized is through our moving process, I was going behind, and this could totally be my type A personality. It could be, but I'd go behind the movers and I would write on the boxes like open first, or I'd put more details on the
Mm-hmm.
outside of the boxes because
Because it
I
says
couldn't read
closed.
their hand. And I'm like, are these winter coats or are they
Right.
shoes? What are these? And so I noticed like each move I would do that. And then I would start purchasing. They have other, color
Mm-hmm.
coded labels that you can purchase, right? But they didn't have the details that I wanted. And so we were moving from Fort Carson to Fort Irwin and we had to downsize drastically. And so I bought like the labels, the duct tape, all the things because every box that went out of that house had to have a specific point within
Mm-hmm.
the other government home that we were going to.
Right.
And so it still was messy and I still spent way too much money trying to make this system work. So when we got orders from Fort Irwin, California here to Fort Bliss, the project management mindset kicked in and I said, that's it. Like I'm going to invest time and money and work with a designer to put together this kit because I want to be prepared to move our boxes, our furniture to this house and just create more efficiency. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing. But that's what we did. So I worked with a designer and then got two sample proofs. So one was stayed with our family that we did, and another family of ours or friends of ours down the street, they were PCSing to South Korea. And I was like, hey, will you take this kit and use it and
Right.
tell me how the
Yeah.
bonus move goes? And their move was it was long-term storage. It was
Right. Oh
it
yeah.
was all
It's complicated.
so complicated. So we both executed it. And then when we got here to El Paso, I refined the kit a little bit more. And then now I have it and launched it for sale in January. So we went from idea concept to developing the product to refining it. And now I have them at our house that I can drop ship to anywhere in the United States and even to APO and FPO addresses. So um, it's exciting and I want to help families move and create efficiency because at least for us we have young kids, we're chasing them around if
Right.
they're not in school or daycare.
Right.
And you know what, the best part about this was the packers on the front side. So in California with us, they love the system and they're like, oh, we see everything and why you're doing it. And
Mm.
there's door hangers within it, and I can kind of go into what's in the kit. But then on this side at Fort Bliss, I literally stood in the front of our house. And the guys, the moving crew, were coming off with the dollies, and they knew exactly where all of the boxes went based on the system.
Right.
So I like stood there for 5 minutes. I walked them through our house and said, these are the rooms and these are the color coordinating titles. And it was like clockwork.
Yeah.
It was so efficient. So anyways,
Yeah.
yes.
No, it's interesting. I could see movers. I mean, to your point, being like, this is so much easier. They can be
Yeah.
more efficient and get on with their day.
Yeah. And so that was, yeah. So it's neat. But each of the kits, they come with, I have like a sample sheet that I can show you, and I can show you this room chart that we have. But each of the kits, they have directions. So I'm a very methodical person. So you kind of go through the process with pack, place, receive, and relax. So all the instructions are here. There's a room chart that's included. And it outlines 8 different room types, and you could name your bedrooms and bathrooms to whatever you want those to be. And then on the storage sheets, you have options to label long-term, basement, attic, garage, hall, closet. There's a pro gear sticker. So for us spouses who work, we want to label the difference between what our stuff is, our service number, but also label what the weight is of ours. Opportunity to do that. You can list the total number of boxes or forecast the floor number it's going to. And then in each of the kits, there are 12 door hangers. So this is what they look like. And so you literally place, here's an example of the label sheet, but yeah, this is the kitchen, yellow. And so you would place one of these stickers on the door hanger, and then honestly, like, put as much information on the contents as you want, if you want to do that. But it also allows you to put like your last name on here, or if your box was to get shipped or mixed in a shipment, you can put your contact information and where you're moving to. And if it's critical or if it can wait. That was the other piece, is like, my thing is, or if our kitchen is unpacked, we can cook food. If our kids' beds and like we have towels, like we're operational, right? Like in our house. So for me, it was important to put those they're small details, but they mean the world.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. I mean, how many, like all of us, I'm sure, have spent the time going, nope, not in this one. Nope, not in that one.
Move this, yeah.
Yes.
Pick it up and move this dresser over here. And yeah, it's just, so my hope with the kit was just to like put a system in place that doesn't replicate what the movers are doing, but just enhances your experience and makes it go by faster and just has everyone on the same page.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And we did our Germany move, and I tried to create a little bit more clarity, because a lot of the boxes were labeled in a foreign language, and they, I don't speak that particular language, and so it was me writing on all the boxes, but I missed a lot of them, and so I at least had some color coding, but it wasn't the same as, even when stuff arrived, I still didn't know. Well, okay, it is, storage or whatever, but maybe it's garage storage versus basement storage, so being able to differentiate would have certainly been more helpful. Yeah. For PCS in particular, I could see those being super helpful.
Yes, next time you all move.
I know, no more Okonas, please.
Well, good. I'm impressed. We've never been stationed overseas, and so I think that is just a whole other ballgame. I know it is. We see our friends do it all the time, and people within the community. So I commend you for that. We have never gone, and part of it's because I don't know if I've been so favorable. I think I would, though. I don't know. I've never been.
It's amazing, and I'd absolutely loved it, and in some ways would do it again in a heartbeat. But it's a whole different thing, and it from a moving standpoint, I feel like now I could do anything. Like domestic move, I got this. Like
it's nothing. I can sleep. I can sleep while they do this.
The bar has been absolutely, like met, and I'm like, nope, domestic, no problem whatsoever. I'm not worried about it. 3 weeks without our stuff, no problem. We're good.
All good. Jen, tell me where you've been. Tell me where you've been stationed.
So we met at Fort Bragg, and then Kansas twice, and then Bragg twice or 3 times. We would go to Kansas and come back, and go to Kansas and come back.
Got it.
And then Germany, we did 2 bases in Germany, and then now Rhode Island. So I think that's 7 moves.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's a lot.
Number 8 coming up.
Yeah, let's hope so. Oh my goodness.
I know, right? We'll all cross our fingers. Well, we'll certainly link in the description for the video and so forth. We'll link folks over to your kit details, so people can see all that, and if they want to take a look and ask any questions or whatever, they can find you there. But where else would you want people to find you if they're looking for you?
So they can find me at Military Quality of Life Consulting, so mqolc.com, and I have a Facebook and LinkedIn page for that. But yeah, and of course my email, in case anyone wants to reach out, is ccgallagher@mqolc.com. So definitely reach out. I'm here, and I'd love to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, no, you've got some, I think, just really interesting background and kind of diversity in what you've done and where
Yeah.
you've done it, and the fact that now you've kind of taken the reins and decided to kind of call the shots for how you build your
Yeah.
career is a little different, and it's great to see, because I think especially as military spouses, sometimes I think we can be a little bit afraid to take that jump,
Oh,
but we're so capable of that because
yeah.
we've done hard, and building a business is hard, but it is
Hmm.
doable, and especially to your point, if you lean on the folks around you who've done it before and can help show you the way and show you what worked for them and make that
Hmm.
process easier, give it a shot. So I
I
love that.
agree. And I would also say one other last piece of advice now that you were talking about that. For us as a family, and whether I've worked during my husband's time in the Army, we're still active duty, but we've had to redefine what success looks at every step of the way,
Mm,
right? Like, I think that's a big piece too. So, whether that's again like adding children to the family or additional responsibilities, or if you want to take a job, or if you don't want to work and you want to stay home with your kids, like it's my husband and I constantly have that conversation, even now with what we're going through with the COVID-19 and our kids are home from daycare and school. It's trying to figure out what that success looks like for both of us, because he's in a command slot here, but I'm also running a business and still working with clients. And so every step of the way, we're like, what does that look like? And what does that feel like to you? And so I think that, like, for us, that's what's kind of driven us both to be able to do what we intend to do to help serve a greater cause, but just defining and redefining success every step of the way has been
no,
helpful. Yeah.
it's a great reminder and a great point, because I think that it really does change with each duty station, with even a set of circumstances like what we're in now, and that
Uh,
communication and talking through that and being able to be honest about what's working and what's not, and what the trade-offs need to be, I think is super
right.
super important for everybody's kind of health and well-being.
And that's right. I know. Very true.
Yes,
So, but I appreciate you, Jen. I appreciate you having me on here, and it's just so nice to meet you virtually here. And I'm so happy we're connected. And
I
thank you for
know.
all you're doing in our community to lift us up and to build a community around our lifestyle. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for being here with us. We will talk to you soon, I am sure.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, guys. So that's it for CC. So I hope you enjoyed that. And like I said in the comments, you can find all the information you need to get in touch with her and take advantage of her PCS kit. I know I need to get one. So keep checking in with us. We're trying to do weekly videos. So we've got a couple cool folks lined up for the next few weeks. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.